Imagine a father who forces his kids to engage in sexual acts with the family dog, and he even recorded it for a child porn ring. His name is Christopher Sena. Additionally, a woman and a boy were reportedly forced into sexual activities with Christopher Sena. His ex-wife, Terry Sena, and his current wife, Deborah Sena, have also been charged with sexual abuse in connection to these allegations. Even though Terry and Christopher were divorced, the three of them still shared a home, creating a pretty unusual family situation. The abuse came to light when Deborah Sena, an adult, along with a child, informed the family lawyer, who then alerted the police. After that, Deborah decided to leave her husband and moved out of the house where the abuse took place. Christopher was arrested after authorities found over 30 tapes documenting the sexual abuse in his home. During the trial, his daughter became emotional and cried as she recounted her experiences of abuse. She shared how her dad would sleep next to her, saying it was his way of showing love. But then things took a dark turn when he started making threats, warning her that no one would believe her if she went to the police and that she'd end up in jail. She mentioned that her mom saw the abuse happening but didn't step in. Plus, she testified that she was pressured into having sexual relations with her stepmom. The prosecutors claimed that Christopher would encourage his kids to invite their friends over to his trailer so he could exploit them as well. Neighbors noted that he always seemed overly excited when his sons brought their girlfriends around. The details of this case are truly disturbing. On top of that, his wives said they felt compelled to participate in the abuse because they were afraid of him, which is why they didn't intervene.
I was afraid that I would never see my kids again. I was afraid he was going to hurt me. And if I didn't comply, at that point the kids would suffer. He would take it out on the kid.
She goes on to explain how he made her act out incest fantasies dating back to the 1990s with her 12-year-old sister. Christopher Sena had an iron grip on them. He dictated their clothing choices, forbade them from having friends, and even installed cameras around the trailer to keep an eye on them 24/7.
Did you want to do any of these things?
Absolutely not.
Both wives, Terry and Deborah, accepted plea deals that landed them 10 years to life. They figured that if they let the jury make the call, they could end up with even harsher sentences. Christopher Sena was found guilty of 95 charges and was sentenced to 341 years in prison. However, one thing that stood out during the entire court proceedings was the apathetic nature of Christopher Sena, like he didn't care. You might consider taking a deep breath before approaching this next case, as it is even more unsettling. Michael Peach of Sunridge Solutions encouraged staff to bring their children to work, claiming the environment was safe. He often urged employees to include their kids in office events. However, his assertion of a child-safe facility was misleading.
What I didn't know was I was being groomed and set up to practically hand-deliver my son to a predator.
The victim's mother filed a complaint alleging that the company's vice president, Peach's aunt, knowingly employed Peach despite his status as a sex offender. The lawsuit detailed 2 instances of molestation, including one at an office party that was reportedly recorded. After learning of the abuse, the mother confronted Peach's aunt, who informed Peach. He denied the allegations but later attacked the family, entering their home masked and armed with a stun gun. He assaulted the mother and her children, using the stun gun repeatedly, while the father narrowly avoided being stabbed. Peach fled, but was later found in the woods with a knife in his chest, attempting suicide. During the trial, Judge Rice said, "You knew you were caught being a sexual predator for the 3rd time, so you premeditated a diabolical attack on a young mother and her children in order to cover up your heinous, awful misdeeds. You gathered up rope, duct tape, a knife, a stun gun, a ski mask, and put together your own special murder backpack. You then slithered over during the early morning hours to the victim's home to carry out your evil plans." Peach claimed he was sorry for his actions and would accept any action against him.
I can only pray for forgiveness and, that I alone, no matter what sentence I get, I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life anyway.
Initially, it might look like he's feeling guilty, but considering he's done this kind of thing multiple times, not just once or twice, it really takes away from any guilt he might claim to have now. Back in 1996 and 1997, Peach abused a boy who was under 13. Through tears, the victim's mother said, "It just broke my heart to learn that my son had been holding on to this secret and was too scared to say anything to me. I then promised my son that I would never let Michael hurt him again. But on that Monday morning, my promise was broken. I can't imagine how scared my son was, hiding and listening to his mom and baby brother screaming as we were being attacked and screaming for our lives." He was sentenced to 48 years in prison. Up next is a story that will force you to trust no one. Imagine how you'd react if the person you trusted to keep your child safe turned out to be their biggest fear. That's the situation in the case of David Solomon, a little league coach who took advantage of 2 boys. He faced charges for sexual assault after an 11-year-old accused him of the crime. A baseball coach from Florida got arrested after a kid opened up to his parents about the abuse he faced from Solomon, who referred to it as a game. The young boy had to go through all the details of what happened to make sure Solomon faced charges. Solomon sat down with no emotion on his face and shook his head as the audio from the child's testimony played in court.
It happened in the car, I don't know what date. It happened every car ride wherever we went.
A kid who hung out with Solomon's son claimed that Solomon had mistreated him during sleepovers and while driving. It happened so frequently that Solomon even gave a nickname to the unwanted touching, calling it the claw.
On the car ride, he touched me mostly, did it. Every red light, he would go, claw, woody bush, claw, woody bush. But one time he just yelled at me because I moved him away from the claw. And then he was like, hey, it's part of the bro code, you have to let me do this every red light.
Solomon wanted to keep things smooth and avoid any resistance, so he told the kid it was all about the bro code. The boy, who played on Solomon's team in the Cooper City Optimist League, mentioned that Solomon had found him twice, once in April and again in May. The defense claimed the prosecution mishandled the witness, but they faced challenges since Solomon had a history of sexual assault allegations. In 2000, he was arrested for molesting 2 boys under 14 from a baseball team he coached, but the charges were dropped when one boy recanted. This time, however, the victims and their parents were standing firm.
You will never understand the pain, the hurt, and the damage you caused my son. You stole his innocence from him.
As an 11-year-old boy, 13 and who knows how long, because of you, he must suffer the rest of his life. Shame on you.
Solomon remained completely unfazed by what the parents said. It was as if he didn't care at all. He flat out rejected every claim made against him, showing no signs of guilt whatsoever.
I did not harm anyone's kids. I didn't. Not one. Not one.
Solomon ended up accepting a plea deal that landed him 12 years behind bars and 10 years on sex offender probation. Solomon's lawyer insisted that Solomon was innocent and only accepted the plea deal to avoid a lengthy prison sentence. On the other hand, the prosecution saw it as a way to wrap up the case and protect the kids involved.
Spare these children from going through the trauma of reliving their sexual abuse if it was possible to come to a resolution.
But the damage had already been done.
May God have mercy on your soul, because where you're going, nobody else will.
The trauma experienced by these children and their families will haunt them forever, shaping their lives in ways we can't fully comprehend. We must never forget the lasting impact of such events, as the scars run deep and endure. In the end, the only thing that remains after the dust settles is regret. Regret that we didn't act sooner and didn't see the warning signs. Let this be a constant reminder to stay vigilant, to be aware, and to act before it's too late. The pain of inaction can be far greater than the pain of confronting uncomfortable truths. Not everyone can stay calm and relax like these predators, as some go crazy in court. Courtroom environment no doubt is overwhelming. Watch next video to see some of the wildest moments in court.